こんにちは、あつです。今回はオンライン英会話キャンブリーを使って5人のネイティブに日本人の英語に対する印象を聞いてみました。様々な国の英語学習者と比較して日本人にはどのような強み、そして弱みがあるか、これを理解して今後の英語学習のヒントにしていただければなと思っております。それではどうぞ。
So, what is your impression of Japanese students when it comes to English ability?
Sure. Yeah, in general, with the students that I've spoken to, Japanese students that I've spoken with, I would say that they have a general, very good grasp of the English language. They have very good grammar and vocabulary. There's just a little difficulty sometimes understanding the pronunciation and accent sometimes. It's fairly common, especially with some Asian students with the letters L and R. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they say the R instead of the L and the L instead of an R. But for the most part, yeah, like I said, they have a very good grasp of the language, good vocabulary, good grammar, and they just need to. Most of the time, they just need a little help and practice with pronunciation and accent. Their strong point is the grammar and vocabulary. They seem to be a little above average,
right?
Comparing with other students, yeah.
Right. So more specifically, talking about communication with people, do you think grammar and vocabulary are more important than pronunciation, or pronunciation is actually more important than the others?
Yeah, good question. I would actually prefer to be able to understand somebody than to be maybe impressed with their vocabulary and grammar. So in order to have a conversation, it's definitely more desirable to be able to understand what they're saying. So yeah, definitely pronunciation and accent is, in my opinion, a better skill to have. Than vocabulary and grammar. Yeah, you can have the highest vocabulary level and great grammar, but if I can't understand what you're saying, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Exactly. Right.
Now, obviously, all my Japanese students are very polite. Very well mannered. They conduct themselves in the correct manner. They generally turn up for the lessons. They very rarely cancel, and they're very punctual. They are good learners. They're studious. They're keen to learn. I find sometimes from the beginning, the first couple of lessons, they might be nervous, but when they open up, they relax with me. I think you're intelligent. You're hardworking, and you're intelligent. Some people have trouble with R and the L sound. Which I understand, because I believe you don't have that in your alphabet. So this is difficult for some Asian people, not just Japanese, but Chinese, Korean, and Taiwanese as well.
So among all different kinds of students that you have come across on this Cambly platform, where would you position like this plot of Japanese students in the graph? Like if here is the average, would that be like above the average or below?
Yeah, definitely above average. I think Taiwanese generally possibly speak English the best. They do speak very good English. So I would say Japanese are probably about second. I would say something like that. I have some Arabic people that speak English very well too. Japanese people speak English at a decent level, and very easy to teach. I find a good connection with Japanese students. And this is, I'm not just saying this, because you're Japanese. I am telling the truth. When I see a name coming up, when it's a new student calling me or a new reservation, and I see that the name's clearly Japanese, and this is the God's honest truth, I'm always excited. It's like, great, and that's how I feel. So there must be something in that. Thank you ever so much for your time, and thank you. It's a very interesting chat, not just the the interview part. It was a very interesting conversation. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to checking out your channel, and I hope to speak to you again one day. Anyway.
Yeah, brace yourself.
Thank you.
Cool.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I think, let me start with strengths first, I think.
Sure.
I think that's a good way. I'll start with some strengths, then some negatives, and then I'll add a strength on the end.
Nice.
I mean, I think some of the strengths is Japanese students are very curious. This is not even English related, but it helps for them to want to learn, you know. They're really curious about foreign countries, particularly English-speaking countries, the culture, the way of life, particular words to use. You know, they're a bit shy, but they are still good at communicating and having a conversation. I'll have to say pronunciation. Many Japanese actually I've noticed are really self-conscious. Many Japanese students, they don't want to sound Japanese when they speak English. They don't like particularly the R and the L sounds are particularly difficult for Japanese students. They try hard not to sound Japanese, to mimic a native sound, which is not a weakness, I guess. But sometimes being able to understand what they're saying is sometimes a little bit tricky. It's a fine line between trying and trying too much. And when I tell a lot of my students, regardless of where they're from, don't focus too much on trying to sound American or trying to sound English. No one wants to sound Australian, but
except me.
Yeah, well, there's some that do. Very few. It's either actually English. I find is quite a popular accent, but sometimes that can slow down communication. Yeah, not all the time, but sometimes. I would pay more attention to pronouncing the word properly rather than the accent. But I would say most of my Japanese students are somewhere in the middle of every now and then there's a really exceptional student, but I would say there's sometimes probably the average with their English skills.
So which country is the best when it comes to speaking English?
I speak to a lot of Saudis. A lot of them, their English is exceptional, like they've been living in a foreign country or like they're living in a foreign country, but they can speak on a wide range of topics and use some pretty complex kind of phrases. One thing I could say about Japanese students is their sense of humor. I can have a laugh with them a lot easier than I can maybe with some other nationalities.
I would say the pronunciation is really, really good. I've noticed that a lot of Japanese students are very dedicated. They are more scheduled and they actually pitch up to classes. They make more effort. They take time to actually learn the English language. And therefore, you can actually tell with their pronunciation, you can actually tell that they put in the effort to actually learn the language. I'm actually quite impressed with the pronunciation of the Japanese students on Cambly. Yeah.
Okay, because many Cambly tutors actually have told me that pronunciation is something definitely we have to work on.
Really? I was actually quite impressed because in comparison to maybe Vietnamese students or maybe Saudi Arabic students, they can't quite grasp how words sound and what they're supposed to sound like. So I'd have to actually correct them quite a lot. Whereas with Japanese students, it would be easy for me to understand what they mean.
So what is our weakness then?
Your weakness is, I would say Japanese students tend to be a little bit more shy. So, for example, a lot of times I try to give my students like time to speak and express themselves. and a lot of times they feel a little bit shy to speak. So I would say that is.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So if you were to position Japanese students in the ranking, where would you position?
That's a very, very tough one. I would say I would put Japanese students within, well, my top three. My top three countries.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. You don't have to be politically correct.
Yeah, this is quite a hard question. They're really good at learning English. It's the pronunciation of certain words that really are really hard for the students to understand. Grammar is like 50-50. It depends on the student and their learning ability. I think they have like quite good grammar. I think that the Japanese student compared to other students are more focused on the why we do things. Like, why is this the way that it is? And I actually have a lot more in-depth grammar conversation with Japanese students because they want to know why things are the way that they are.
So they try to like dig deep so that they can like better grasp the idea of like what the logic is behind like
exactly. Yeah, it goes beyond just learning the language. They really want to understand like the roots of it. And I don't have any other students that really want to grasp onto that as much as my Japanese students.
Among all like different students like from different countries, where would you position the level of English in general?
So my student before you was Japanese, and his like English is really good. The student that I tried to have my class with today, again, like from Japan, and yeah, they're so detail oriented. I'd say in my top three, like with my students personally, my top three students when it comes to learning, like just speaking English, would be Turkey, Brazil, and South Korea, and then Japan. So Japan does not make my top three, unfortunately. The big thing with Japanese students, their accent is so easy to understand. It's really easy to catch on if they have like the pronunciation mistakes. Or say someone with a really thick accent, whether it be like Hispanic, Middle East, Italian, sometimes it's really hard to understand if they are making pronunciation mistakes because there is a bit of that barrier with the accent.
All right. I speak to you soon.
Yeah, for sure.